Welcome to Gold Journal's football match review. How does a club that's basically grappling with near bankruptcy absolutely humiliate a squad of, the most expensive superstars on the planet?
Yeah, it really defies logic.
It completely does. Today on the deep dive, we are looking at a 14-point gap that just shatters every law of modern football economics. We're stepping onto the pitch to explore the anatomy of a truly spectacular, emotionally charged championship victory.
And what a victory it is, right?
Right, because Barcelona has just secured back-to-back La Liga titles, and they haven't just won it. They have completely dismantled the competition. Like, the numbers for you listening are just staggering.
They really are. I mean, they're sitting at 91 points.
91 points, and they boast this massive, positive 60-goal difference. So they scored 91 goals and only conceded 31 across the entire campaign.
Which is just an unbelievable defensive record, frankly.
Yeah, and they're 14 points clear of their bitter rivals, Real Madrid. With 3 games still left on the calendar, they are actively hunting down that magical 100-point mark. Okay, let's unpack this. How on earth did a team constantly in the headlines for financial struggles pull off this level of utter dominance?
Well, by proving that in the modern game, tactical perfection is basically impossible without deep emotional vulnerability.
Interesting.
Right, because we've been conditioned to assume that the team with the deepest pockets, the one buying up every marketable superstar, just dictates the pace of the league.
Yeah, you just buy the best players and you win.
Exactly. But this season is a masterclass in a completely different kind of currency. It's a triumph of culture over capital.
Well, I have to push back a little right at the start here.
Go ahead.
Because this idea of a quote-unquote family atmosphere is that actually winning them games. Because history is full of teams that, frankly, hated each other, but won purely on raw, arrogant talent.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, look at the early 2000s Galacticos, or even outside of football, like the 90s Chicago Bulls. I mean, building a championship team is like a delicate ecosystem, and usually one toxic element can spoil the water. Is this just a sports cliche, or is there tangible proof it wins games?
I mean, that pushback is totally fair if we were analyzing football, say, 20 years ago.
Right.
But the modern game has fundamentally evolved. Like, the high-pressing systems required today mean that if one player decides not to sprint back on defense, the entire structural net just collapses.
It just falls apart.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is how their manager, Hansi Flick, took that family cliche and basically weaponized it into a non-negotiable tactical requirement.
Weaponize it how?
Well, it wasn't about being best friends. It was about absolute, ruthless accountability to the collective.
Okay, give me a concrete example of what that accountability looks like in practice. Because, ruthless accountability sounds great in a press conference.
Oh, right.
But actually enforcing it when you're dealing with multimillionaire superstars is a totally different reality.
Yeah, it is. But it happened early in the season following a really frustrating 1-1 draw against Rayo Vallecano.
Oh, I remember that match.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of gritty, annoying result against a lower table team that makes elite players start pointing fingers.
Right. The forwards blame the midfield blames the defense.
Yeah, right. But Flick didn't let that poison seep in. He addressed the dressing room immediately and delivered a very clear warning. He said, "Ego will kill success."
Wow. Ego will kill success.
Yeah. He demanded zero complacency. Winning the title last year meant absolutely nothing to him if the standards slipped today.
It's a brilliant mandate because it addresses the human nature of a championship hangover. Like, you win once, you subconsciously relax by maybe 5%, thinking your sheer talent will just carry you.
And in a high-pressing system, a 5% drop-off is fatal. Flick made it clear, you aren't playing for your individual statistics or your next big contract. You are playing for the guy standing next to you.
Right.
If you don't track back, you aren't just making a tactical error, you are actively betraying your teammate.
Man. Well, let's look at the catastrophic failure of that exact concept. Because if you look down the table at Real Madrid, you see the perfect mirror image of this season.
Oh, it's night and day.
It's like watching a luxury sports car just explode right on the starting line.
Real Madrid is honestly a tragedy of their own making this year. Let's rewind a bit to earlier in the campaign. Their former manager, Xabi Alonso, actually held a 5-point lead over Barcelona.
Yeah, Madrid was completely in the driver's seat.
They really were. But the entire project fragmented under the weight of their own egos. I mean, having a V12 engine of pure talent means absolutely nothing if the gears of team cohesion refuse to lock together.
And the transmission completely blew out the moment Alonso decided to substitute Vinicius Jr. I remember watching that match live. The reaction from Vinicius wasn't just a disappointed headshake. It was explosive.
Very public.
Right, a completely public display of frustration, a total refusal to be a team player in that critical moment.
And when a superstar overtly rejects a tactical decision made for the betterment of the squad, it introduces this highly toxic element into the ecosystem.
It really does.
So think about the ripple effect. If the highest paid star on the pitch openly disrespects the manager's authority, why should the 18-year-old rookie on the bench follow instructions?
They wouldn't.
Right. The locker room fractured right there. That single incident of prioritizing the self over the badge essentially cost Xabi Alonso his job. Real Madrid just could not recover the cohesion required to grind out a grueling 38-game league campaign.
It just proves that, talent can win you a chaotic match, but only cohesion can win you a 38-game marathon.
Beautifully put.
But returning to Barcelona, what really captures my attention is that this familial bond wasn't just built through strict discipline or whiteboard tactical meetings.
No, not at all.
It was forged in the fires of real-life tragedy, right before the biggest game of the entire year.
The emotional weight of this season is staggering.
Yeah.
And it really centers around El Clásico.
Right, the ultimate rivalry game against Real Madrid.
Exactly, the match that historically defines the season. And just days before kickoff, Hansi Flick's father tragically passed away.
Just visualizing the start of that match gives you chills,
Yeah, it was heavy.
The players walking out of the tunnel wearing black armbands, the entire stadium observing a heavy minute of silence. But looking at the mechanics of leadership, how does a manager process immense personal grief while carrying the weight of a massive global football institution?
It's incredibly difficult.
And how does that vulnerability affect the players who are looking up to him for direction?
Well, it fundamentally alters the psychological dynamic of the dressing room. It strips away the superficial, sort of corporate layers of professional sports.
Awesome.
Suddenly, the players stop seeing Flick as just the tactician who assigns them a role on the pitch, and they see a profoundly vulnerable human being. Players like Rafinha and Gavi have been explicit about this. They view Flick as a father figure.
A father figure, wow.
Yeah, and when someone you view as a father is hurting, your instinct changes entirely. You aren't just playing for 3 points anymore. Your instinct is to protect them, to fight for them.
Which is why they dedicated that El Clásico match to Flick and his family.
Exactly.
You rarely see that kind of raw, specific emotional dedication. Usually it's the generic PR line, like, we're doing it for the fans. But this was fiercely personal.
It resonated so deeply because many of these players have their own familial sacrifices intrinsically tied to their careers, and the perfect encapsulation of this dynamic is Pedri.
Oh, the detail about Pedri's dad, that is such a beautiful piece of context.
It really tells you everything about the culture of this team. Pedri has this tradition where whenever he celebrates a title, he has his dad act as a goalkeeper while he takes a mock penalty kick.
Which is just such a great image.
Yeah, but that isn't just a fun photo opportunity for the cameras. Pedri's father was an aspiring goalkeeper himself, but he had to sacrifice his own footballing dreams to work and provide for his family.
Wow.
So when Pedri wins, he's literally sharing that victory with the man who gave up his dream to make Pedri's reality possible.
Man, when you have a locker room full of young men who inherently understand that profound level of sacrifice, and they see their manager going through a devastating personal loss, I mean, that is the difference between a team that runs hard and a team that is willing to bleed on the pitch.
Exactly. It changes everything.
And all of that emotional weight, all of that psychological bonding, it needed an outlet. And where it went was into absolute, unadulterated, on-pitch destruction against Real Madrid.
The tactical execution in that match was staggering.
Right.
And it was driven entirely by that emotional engine. They didn't just beat Real Madrid. They completely overwhelmed them from the opening whistle.
Barcelona went 2-0 up in just 18 minutes.
18 minutes.
18 minutes against their fiercest rivals. And here's where it gets really interesting. The opening goal wasn't some scrappy tap-in from a corner.
No, it was a moment of magic.
Marcus Rashford steps up and scores a brilliant direct free kick. Let that sink in for a second. Marcus Rashford, an English player, integrated into this Catalan system, scoring a direct free kick in El Clásico.
It's huge.
He is the first Barcelona player to score a direct free kick in this fixture since Lionel Messi did it in 2012.
Which is just a historic statistic. Highlights how seamlessly Flick has integrated players into the system, allowing them the confidence to step up in massive high-pressure moments.
Right.
But if we break down the tactical mismatch across the pitch, it wasn't just individual brilliance like Rashford's strike. It was a masterclass in spatial trust.
Spatial trust?
Yeah. Take Barcelona's second goal. Dani Olmo provides this absolutely gorgeous backheel assist for Ferran Torres to finish.
Okay, pause right there and explain the mechanics of a backheel assist in a game of this magnitude. Why is that specific move so indicative of the culture we are analyzing today?
Because a backheel pass in tight quarters is mathematically impossible without absolute unwavering trust. You are literally passing the ball to a space you cannot see.
You're just hoping he's there.
Right. You don't attempt a blind pass in El Clásico unless you know with 100% certainty that your teammate has made the exact run he promised to make in training.
Wow.
That telepathy doesn't come from raw talent. It comes from Flick's strict, egoless training sessions where every player's movement is synchronized and trusted.
So it's the physical manifestation of ego will kill success.
Exactly.
If Olmo is trying to pad his own stats, he turns and shoots into a defender.
Right.
And if Torres is feeling lazy, he doesn't make that blind, exhausting run. But they trusted the system implicitly, and it wasn't just the seasoned veterans executing this either.
No, the youth stepping up was phenomenal.
The academy integration was incredible. We are talking about Lamine Yamal, an 18-year-old superstar putting on an absolute clinic.
Unbelievable performance.
Fermin Lopez dominating the center of the park, and Gerard Martin putting in a genuinely world-class performance at center back under the highest pressure imaginable.
Yeah, the kids were all right.
But let's cross the halfway line and look at Madrid under their new coach, Arbeloa. Because if Barcelona's trust allowed them to play blind passes, Madrid looked like 11 strangers who met in the parking lot right before kickoff.
It was a disaster. They lacked everything required in a modern football match. They lacked pressing, they lacked collective effort, and frankly, they lacked heart.
And we need to define what lacking pressing actually means here, right?
Yes, because pressing isn't just running aggressively at the ball carrier. It is a synchronized trap. Every player has to close an angle simultaneously to suffocate the opponent.
Like a net.
Exactly, a net. And under Arbeloa, Madrid's pressing net was completely broken. If just one egotistical player decides he doesn't feel like sprinting to close his lane, the entire trap fails, and the other 10 players look foolish as the ball is easily passed around them.
And Arbeloa compounded that tactical failure with managerial decisions that just defied logic, especially regarding the locker room context.
Yeah, the decision to start Aurelien Tchouameni in the midfield is a prime example. It was a catastrophic miscalculation.
Because Tchouameni had been involved in a physical altercation, like an actual fight, prior to this game.
Yes.
Starting a player who has just engaged in behavior that actively destroys team cohesion in the biggest match of the season, I mean, what message does that send to the rest of the squad?
It rewards indiscipline. It tells the locker room that your talent matters more than your trust in your teammates. It's the exact opposite of Flick's philosophy.
Completely.
In a pressing system, trust is everything. If you are angry at the guy next to you because of a locker room brawl, you hesitate for a split second before covering his defensive zone.
Right.
And that split second of hesitation is exactly how Barcelona scored 2 goals in 18 minutes. Arbeloa let the ego back onto the pitch, and the result was a paralyzed midfield.
So Madrid's transmission is completely blown, and Barcelona accelerates into the distance, which brings us to the aftermath. The victory transitions from the tactical dominance on the pitch to the absolute chaotic joy on the streets of Catalonia for the open bus parade.
The parade.
Now, parades are incredibly unpredictable. It's where the highly controlled environment of the stadium crashes into the raw, unscripted energy of the public.
And that unpredictability always tests the leadership culture of a club in real time, completely outside the confines of a tactical whiteboard.
And during this specific parade, a highly publicized incident occurred. A fan in the crowd handed 18-year-old Lamine Yamal a Palestine flag, and Yamal was seen waving it from the bus. Now, it's really important to pause right here for you listening. Our goal on this deep dive is simply to look at how a manager handles complex geopolitical moments on a global stage.
Right, exactly.
We are analyzing the leadership mechanics impartially without taking any political sides or endorsing any viewpoints ourselves. We are strictly looking at the management of a highly sensitive situation.
Which is crucial context, Because managing an 18-year-old superstar who has just made a very visible political statement is a massive challenge for any organization.
Oh, huge.
Especially when you consider that Catalonia itself has incredibly deep historical roots of resistance and political expression.
If we connect this back to the delicate ecosystem Hansi Flick has built, how does a manager navigate this without fracturing the trust? Because a lot of traditional managers would just panic, issue a strict PR statement reprimanding the player, and forcefully tell everyone to, stick to football.
Right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, that heavy-handed approach almost always causes a rift between the player and the coach.
It definitely does.
What's fascinating here is Flick's emotional intelligence. He didn't issue a punishment, but he didn't endorse the action either. Flick stated that while he personally doesn't prefer seeing these types of situations during club celebrations, he acknowledged that Lamine Yamal is old enough to make his own decisions.
That is brilliant boundary setting.
It really is.
He essentially says, I wouldn't choose to do this, but I respect your autonomy as an adult. He protects the club's broader focus without alienating his young star.
Exactly. He treats his players like family members who might have differing views, but who are unconditionally part of the collective. By allowing Yamal his agency, he prevented a public media incident from destroying their internal trust.
Yeah.
It proves that the family concept isn't just about controlling players, it's about mutual respect.
And it's a testament to the universality of this leadership model, because this kind of egoless, unified success isn't just an isolated incident in Spain. When you look across the landscape of European football, the data shows this is a blueprint for the modern game.
The parallels are striking, honestly. Arsenal also just secured their league title in a very emphatic manner, closing it out with a dominant 4-0 home victory against Burnley.
And Arsenal is another prime example of a club that had to painstakingly purge toxic egos from their locker room over several years to build a unified culture.
Yeah, Arteta did a massive clean out there.
Whether you're in London or Barcelona, you can't just buy a trophy anymore. You have to build an ecosystem.
When the ego is left at the door and everyone is pulling in the exact same direction, the immense pressure of a title race doesn't fracture the system, it solidifies it. Arsenal's 4-0 victory to seal the deal is the mark of a team that trusts their pressing net completely, right down to the final whistle.
So what does this all mean? When we look back at the 91 points, the 14-point gap over Real Madrid, the historic Rashford free kick, and the profound emotional dedications to a grieving manager, it all points to one undeniable truth. The highest defensive lines, the sharpest pressing traps, and the most expensive talent are completely useless without human connection. Leaving half the pitch empty behind your defense on a high line requires absolute certainty that your forwards are doing their job pressing the ball.
Absolute certainty.
Right. If the players don't care about each other, if they don't see their manager as a vulnerable, respected figure, those tactics will fail when the pressure gets high. Barcelona won this title because they eradicated ego and replaced it with a shared, almost familial purpose.
It's a powerful lesson in leadership that extends far beyond the football pitch. Flick proved that vulnerability and strict accountability are not mutually exclusive concepts.
Not at all.
You can demand absolute tactical perfection precisely because you have built a foundation of absolute care.
And that leaves you with a fascinating question to ponder as we look ahead to next season, because Barcelona's ultimate goal next year isn't just to retain the lead, it's the Champions League.
Oh yeah, they want Europe.
They want to conquer Europe. Can this deeply emotional, family-first culture survive the ruthless, high-stakes, hyper-commercialized pressure of the European giants?
It's going to be tough.
Can they maintain this tactical magic without the massive financial backing of state-owned clubs? Or does the intimate family bond eventually break under the sheer weight of European ambition? Something to think about. Thank you. See you soon with upcoming matches.